Hey there, my name's Kevin Alvey. I'm with a company called Alvey Gardens. We're a small farm in southern Indiana, Zone 6B. This is probably one of the first or second video on our channel, and what we're going to cover is how we operate our garden. We grow in caterpillar tunnels. We've got hugel mounds that we grow strawberries on. We like to use swales. Developing a fig orchard. Also have other garden areas. A lot of fruit trees. And like I said, just trying to create a permaculture space. We'll do kind of worm farms or vermicomposting. We do mulch, so we create our own compost. We done a little bit of the Johnson Sioux bioreactors, Jadam. So there's a lot of things that we're going to cover over time and how we utilize them in the space. But today we're going to do some fig cuttings. I traded some fig cuttings with a friend named Steven. He's got a YouTube channel where he does a lot of things, and it's called Erudite Cowboy. Steven, I apologize if I didn't know how to really pronounce that, but I will put a link to his channel. Now, what I did was I sent him a bunch of kind of unknown elderberry cuttings that were really healthy. And because some that I planted on our property that I got from a sweet lady near us, and planted those, and they've been really prolific and really producing well. So we wanted to test to see if they would grow well where he was. And then he traded me a bunch of different varieties of fig cuttings, and we'll go over that. So let's get started. So what I've got going here is this is a concrete mixing tub, which is really good for doing, for soil mix, and so that's why I use it. What I've got in here is what's left of a big mix of 1-to-1 just peat and perlite. Now you can obviously see this is really dusty, so you don't want to breathe that. But I've already kind of pre-mixed this, and it's very, very dry, so it's not really going to do much good at the moment. But I'm going to dump all of this into our tub. Okay. Now, just still mix that up fairly thoroughly. Now there's a lot of other things that you can do to do this. You could do peat and or perlite and coca-coir. You could do straight perlite. There's so many different options. I'm also going to put some mycelial powder. I use mycorrhizal, Michael Bliss from Plant Tonics, and what I do is I've got a little spoon in here. So take that and just add a little. We'll end up mixing that in. Don't do a whole lot. You don't need that much. And then also add some vermiculite. And what I like to do is just cover the soil surface, or the medium surface, with the vermiculite. That just helps hold a little more moisture for a longer period of time. And it is very light and kind of helps fluff it up a little bit. Keeps it from compacting too much. So it's basically 1-to-1 peat and perlite with maybe 10%, 15% vermiculite added in. Could be 20. So like I said, I just put it on the surface and then work it into it. And now we need to wet the medium And normally, you know, I use just regular water, but I water right now. I'm watering kind of fertilizing or low fertilizing, not using a whole lot. Excuse me. We're gonna wet this till it's just damp, not wet, not soaking. That just causes root rot, and you won't get rooted cuttings. You just get rotted cuttings. Now that might be enough. I used a full little small watering can, and that is the watering can that I use. You know, it's just a really small can. But that gives me good control, so I know how much I'm putting in. I think I'm going to need a little more. Okay, test by picking it up, squeezing it, and filling it. And it's slightly cold or slightly damp to the touch. Probably needs just a little bit more, but it's not far. Because like I said, it does feel damp. Now the fertilizer I use, I'll use this same thing as a foliar spray also, which just means I'll put it in a spray bottle and spray the leaves of plants, regardless of what they are, figs or house plants, whatever I have. But what I've got in here is, at least for the cuttings, is I put in Super Thrive when Super Thrive, More Bloom, which is like a 0-10-10. And then compost tea that I brewed, and worm tea, and just very small amount, you know, like maybe 10% of the recommended ratio for the cuttings after they've rooted. But I kind of do this because it's supposed to help get the roots off to a good start. That's why we put the mycorrhizal. Okay, let's try that again. Let's see, what's it feel like? I can't get any water out of it. Not one drop. It still looks a little wet. So that should be good. Not too wet, but wet enough. Alright, time to, we'll pot up one fig pop and then do 1 cup, and I'll keep going from there. So the cuttings I've got from Steven, I end up doing a pre-rooting technique on them. So on 2/11 of this year, I put them in a bag with wet paper towels, and I've left them until now, so really not much time, a week or so. But now I'm ready to film this. Last night I put my my Super Thrive water mix in the bag to just kind of, you know, pre-root, just to kind of get them in some moisture and have them soak that up before I pot these up. Steven sent me a white Adriatic, white Cadota, blackjack, brown turkey, Peter's honey, Coldadom, Chicago Hardy, Baru grease, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, sorry, and black mission. So 2 or 3 cuttings of each, and you can see that they're, you know, kind of tip cuttings, all very healthy and ready to go in a fig pop. So let's get started. Now, like I said, these are super wet, and I will dry them off. Just in the short time that they've been in that bag, not that you can see it on camera, but looking at it, I can see root nodes starting to pop, swelling up. That's what we want. I mean, if we give these a couple more weeks, they'd probably be fairly fully formed. The bottom would be calloused up really good, and they really would truly be ready to go. But they are ready. They've already been scored. I've already dipped them in the rooting medium. I like to use a powdered rooting medium. I also add in a little mycelium powder to it too. And that's just you know, my little, what I do. I don't know if that works or if that doesn't work, but that's what I've been doing so that I don't always have to add the powder to the medium itself. All right, so there's two ready to go. Again, this is a white Cadota, and this is a black Mission. So here's one of my fig pops. Like I was saying, before I do it, I puncture the bag several times, and then on the other side also to breathe. And that usually does it. I know how far that I'm going to pack the bag. I don't want to use the full bag. If I were just putting this in the bag and then putting the cutting, trying to put the cutting fully in the bag, fully sealed, then I wouldn't cut that off. But I don't do that. And in order to not knock all my rooting powder off, I do something to kind of get down in there first. But again, this is a black Mission. Getting down in there. 2 nodes under, several nodes out. And I'm gonna pack that down there really tight. I don't want any soil up around where I'm gonna put my rubber band. Got rubber bands over here. So there we go. And then one on the bottom, that just helps hold it tight. So there is a fig pop cutting. And then you always want to label. So this is a black Mission. And it's from Steven. Kind of helps to track. And today is the 17th. So we'll tear that off. And put that on the fig pop. One down, bunch more to go. Now here's that white Cadota. I'd done a black Mission and then I did a white Cadota off camera. The black Mission, you know, it's a tip cutting, so you really shouldn't have to do anything because there's no place for moisture to kind of get out. But with this stem cutting, you know, obviously that's open, so that will leak. So what I tend to do, or what I've been doing lately, is for some reason I just find it convenient to do the wood glue. So I've been doing just a touch of wood glue on the tops of the cuttings. and that tends to seal them up. Now I'm sure some people will say, you know, it's got chemicals in it, or there's always something. So, you know, some people like that method, some people won't. But there it is with the wood glue on the top. I mean, you can also use, you know, the different tapes, or you know, just about anything, wax. I mean, there's a lot of methods. So, but that's just I find that super convenient. So that's why I use it. Okay, now I'm going to do another tip cutting. This is a white Adriatic. I've already scored it. You know, some people score, some people don't. But I have a little, you know, kind of a little grafting knife here. So I have already scored it, but normally all I would do is just scrape it. And what that's supposed to do is kind of just send a signal to the cutting to send out roots. Now what happens is that calluses, and the calluses form so it kind of swells up, and this swells up, and then the roots come out of that. That's not always how it works, because you see there's these little nodes all along here, and those will put out roots. Like I said, I pre-rooted this, so I'm starting to see those little nodes popping. So this is a good one to try to kind of go with. So this time we're going to do a little clear cut method. A lot of people like to put perlite in the bottom, and I've kind of seen some issues that doing that can kind of raise the water level in the cup, so then that puts the cutting too close to the water. So, and I actually was putting perlite in them, but I'm going to try some without that method. So here we are, we're going to put a little soil in the bottom. Go ahead and push that down in a little bit. Raise it up a little, so it's not sitting down all the way down and soaking up the water in the bottom. We don't want that. But then kind of pack around your cup. Get good soil contact. That's very important. And the rest of it we won't pack down so tight. We just kind of leave it a little loose, but we'll pack it a little bit. All right, I want that more in the middle. And again, we're trying to maintain moisture in the cup, not necessarily on with the soil to stay moist. So we also have lids. So I use the lids to kind of tell me what the moisture level is like in there. If there's a little water around the rim, then you know it's holding in moisture. So sometimes you can use that to determine that you need to take the lid off and allow it to breathe, or that it needs to be watered, because if there's no moisture sitting around that edge, then that's something to consider, might need to change. So we just kind of pop that around there. And there we go. So I'll need to, that's moving around a little too much. I need to pack that down again. And when I water these, so that's really all I have to do, since it's a tip cutting and not a stem cutting, I don't have to seal the top. So in a little while I'll start to see water beading on the inside of here and up here, and then that tells you if you've got enough moisture in there or not. So again, now it's time to label. That's again a white Adriatic from Stephen, and today is the 17th. Okay, here are all the cuttings I received from Stephen.
You can see everything's potted up. I did everything with fig pops. Here's this is the one I don't know how to pronounce the name of it. Baru Gris. Got several Peter's honey, which I was telling Steven that it's like I wanted Peter's honey really bad. And he ended up having Peter's honey, so he sent me 3 Peter's honey cuttings. There's 2 from Blackjack, which is kind of a dwarf species. Everything here is fairly cold tolerant, except for maybe the CDD. But the Chicago Hardy is. I think the Blackjack might be. I know Peter's honey is. Adriatic is. Black Mission is. White Cadota should be. But here is everything. And what we'll end up doing is we will do a follow-up, kind of to show how these are growing and if I've gotten my moisture levels right, which has obviously been the hardest thing for me as a newbie fig grower, is just nailing that humidity level and that moisture level in the soil without rotting out my cuttings. And let me just show you my whole setup here. Now, obviously I've got lots of plants in here, house plants and everything, and there's the fig cuttings over there, which we'll look at here in a second. But these are my hot boxes. And what I did is I've got my basement is about 66 degrees normally. And so these little hot boxes help me because, let's look at temperature. So we're at 74 degrees and humidity is even low on that. But this is where I put my fig pops primarily. And I've got myself opened up right there for the ones I just did and right there. All right, there's all the cuttings I got from Steven. Everything's packed in there. It's all on a heat mat. And that heat mat is at 77 degrees, even though it's showing 74 back there. I do have it set on 77. It kind of drops when I open up my hot box. But I put insulation all the way around, top and bottom, and I kind of seal them in that way. Well, that about wraps up what I want to show you today. I will do a follow-up video covering those specific figs that we just potted up. We'll follow them all the way through and hopefully get to put them in 1-gallon pots and then move them outside and show you the orchard when that gets going. So like I said, this channel is going to cover the fig orchard and basically everything I'm growing on this property. So please follow, subscribe, Alvey Gardens, and let's see what we can do for the future. Live, learn, and let's grow.